Good morning.
Good morning.
Great. So glad to see everyone here today. I'm Linda Comstock, and I'm board treasurer, and I am your platform host for today. We want to welcome any newcomers. I think everybody's been here before, so that's great. Many warm thanks to everyone, both here and online, for your tithes and gifts to the church community. We are so grateful for your support. This is Guest Speaker Sunday, and we're blessed to have Elizabeth Betzel as our speaker today. As most of you know, Elizabeth Betzel is a licensed Unity teacher. She's also a math teacher at Columbus State. Elizabeth has a long background in Unity and has pursued many other forms of spiritual wisdom as well, such as the Enneagram, Heart Intelligence, and Spiritual Coaching. Her title today is The Wisdom of the Trees. And Elizabeth, thank you so much for being with us. I have a couple of announcements. The Lenten Study Group is ongoing and at Wednesdays here at the church at 1:30. Cliff Miller is the facilitator. There's been 2 sessions so far, and there will be 4 more. So it's not too late to attend if you'd like to participate. Like all of our classes, it's on a donation basis. Our annual meeting is coming up next Sunday, March 12th, after the service, starting at around noon. This yearly meeting is hosted by our Board of Trustees and is always a good way to hear how the church is doing and do some visioning about the year ahead, and all are welcome. As always, we start with prayer. We are very inclusive in our prayers, holding the highest in mind and heart for ourselves and each other, our communities, and the world. If you're listening in online, remember that you can send in a prayer request anytime via our website, unitydelawareohio.org. Just use the prayer request tab at the top of the page. Now Louise will lead us into prayer with Surely the Presence.
Presence of the Lord is in this place. I can feel the mighty power and the grace. There's a holy hush around us. I see glory on each face. Surely the presence of the Lord is in this place. Surely the presence of the Lord is in this place. I can feel the mighty power and the grace. There's a holy hush around us. I see glory on each face. Surely the presence of the Lord is in this place.
Thank you, Louise. So as we close our eyes, just invite you to settle into your chair. Feel the support of the chair beneath you, feet on the ground. And just take a few deep breaths to become even more centered and more still. Receptive to the flow of divine life, that wellspring of great wisdom, so abundantly available to all of us. That flow of steadying peace and abiding love that we can draw on moment by moment to guide us, to protect us, and to lead us along the path of life. Each one of us has a deep connection to that power and presence within us. The opportunity to be open to it, to be lived by it. The power that lights the path before us, that provides for us, that shows us what is ours to do. How grateful we are to live in this ocean of grace. And we know this is true for each one in our circle of prayer this morning, for each one listening to our service, for all those we are lifting up in our hearts in this moment, and for all beings everywhere. Not one of us is separate from the living God. Each one of us is in direct touch with all the guidance needed, all the healing energy, all the abiding love. Not one of us is alone and separate from the source of all good, the answer to all our needs. How grateful we are to know this truth this morning for ourselves and for all living beings everywhere. We are one with the living God that makes all things possible, and we are grateful. And so it is. Amen.
Well, good morning again.
Good morning.
Yeah, I've chosen a tune that has spring in it, since spring is on its way. This was written by Oscar Hammerstein. Is it Rodgers and Hammerstein? There we go. It might as well be spring. It's from a musical state fair back in 1945. I'm so glad Jack's up here.
I'm as restless as a willow in a windstorm. I'm as jumpy as a puppet on a string. I'd say that I had spring fever, but I know it isn't spring. I'm starry-eyed and vaguely discontented, like a nightingale without a song to sing. Oh, why should I have spring fever when I know it isn't spring? I keep wishing I were somewhere else, walking down a strange new street, hearing words that I have never heard from a man I've yet to meet. Well, I'm busy as a spider spinning daydreams. I'm as giddy as a baby on a swing. I haven't seen a crocus or a rosebud or a robin on the wing, but I feel so gay in a melancholy way that it might as well be spring. Yes, it might as well be spring. Walking down a strange new street, hearing words that I have never heard from a man I've yet to meet. Well, I'm busy as a spider spinning daydreams. I'm as giddy as a baby on a swing. Well, I haven't seen a crocus or a rosebud or a robin on the wing, but I feel so gay in a melancholy way that it might as well be spring. Yes, it might as well be. Yes, it might as well be. Yes, it might as well be spring. Oh, yeah.
Oh, well, thank you, Louise and Jack. What a perfect song for today, isn't it? How many of you enjoyed the ride in, like I did? I get a nice long one from Diana. It's beautiful, just gorgeous. And I'm glad you decided to spend the morning with us. A lot of other things you could be doing, but for those of you who've joined us online and those here in person, it's good to see you and good to be with you. So, I don't know about you, but if I were a child, I know exactly what I'd be doing this afternoon. Anyone guess? It had to do with the family. Something we don't do anymore.
Outside.
Being outside, yeah, exactly. Being outside in a Sunday afternoon drive. How many of you remember taking those as kids? Some of you, yeah, not so much we do anymore. It's too much distraction. Too many things. But back in the good old days, quote around good, yeah, everything was shut down. In fact, Sunday was the most boring day of my childhood life. There was nothing much to do. Everything was shut down. Nothing much to watch on TV. And so we'd often go out on a Sunday afternoon drive with my parents if my dad wasn't working. And both of my sisters and I knew what was in store on those drives. My mother was in love with trees, and her agenda on those drives was to educate us about all the trees around us. She would name them, she would tell us about them, and my sisters and I, we kind of look at each other and kind of roll our eyes and go off into our daydreams or whatever we were doing, playing little games with each other. And, sad to say, I didn't really take advantage of all that free education that my mom was so passionate about giving us. And, her love of trees stayed with her whole life. In fact, when my parents retired to Tennessee, my dad thought, okay, I'm gonna plant some trees in the front yard to give some shade to the house. So he chose, I believe they were silver maples. A lot of people say they're not the best tree to put in your front yard. They drop a lot of stuff and they're not the most beautiful. Well, my dad figured that out after about 10 years and decided he'd do everybody a favor and chop them all down. But he didn't tell my mom. And so we were driving down in spring to visit my parents for a long weekend, and we pulled into the driveway and I thought, oh my gosh, the trees are gone. I knew what type of trip we were going to have, what type of visit we were going to have. And my father came out to the car. He didn't usually do that. They usually met us at the door when we came in. My father came out to the car and said, don't say a word about those trees, just be quiet. So we went in, it was a little icy. My mom was, the silent treatment. My dad had been living with it for a couple of weeks since he cut the trees down without telling her. So she got over it, thankfully. But, I think my mom was onto something. She realized the importance, the specialness of trees. And we're going to look at that this morning, what the trees give to us and some of the wisdom that they have to share with us. So we all know how good being in nature can make us feel. Just the drive over. I wasn't really in nature, I was in my car, but at least I was observing it. Lifted my mood, kind of elevated my energy, just enjoying the trees, seeing them come into bud, the sun, the grass greening up. If we can be out in the forest, not only do the sights enthrall us, but the sounds of the forest, the scent of the trees, the sunlight playing through the leaves, the fresh, clean air. These things give us a sense of comfort. They ease our stress and worry, help us to relax and to think more clearly. Being in nature can restore our mood. I think we found that a lot of times. It can give us back our energy, our vitality, give us hope, refresh and rejuvenate us. The Japanese actually have a practice that they participate in called Shinrin-yoku. Shinrin, and I'm sure I'm not saying that right, but this is the way it looks. Shinrin in Japanese means forest, and yoku means bath. So Shinrin-yoku, or forest bathing, is the practice of taking in the forest through all of your senses. Maybe a little different than we do when we go to the park. It's not an exercise, it's not jogging, it's not walking through the park. It is simply being in nature, connecting with it through all of our senses, our seeing, our hearing, our smelling, our taste, our touch. And Shinrin-yoku is like a bridge. By opening up our senses, it bridges the gap between us and the natural world that we live in. And nature has an abundance of wisdom to share with us if we just look and listen. Practicing Shinrin-yoku is one way to learn from nature. The practice is really quite simple. First, all you have to do is find a spot. Make sure you've left your phone and your camera behind. That's the hardest part of this practice, leaving the phone behind. And all you're going to do is walk aimlessly. You don't really have a destination. You're just going to walk aimlessly and slowly. Let your body be your guide. Listen to where it wants to take you. Follow your nose and take your time. And it doesn't matter if you don't go anywhere. There's nowhere to go with this practice. You are just savoring the sounds, the smells, and the sights of nature and letting the forest in to your being. The key to unlocking the power of the forest is in the 5 senses. Let nature enter through your ears, your eyes, your nose, your mouth, your hands, and your feet. Listen to the birds singing and the breeze rustling in the leaves of the trees. Look for the different shades of green in the trees and the sunlight filtering through the branches. Taste the freshness of the air as you take deep breaths. Place your hands on the trunk of a tree and drink in the flavor of the forest and allow your sense of calm and joy to arise. Scientists would tell us that there's a reason that we have a sense of joy and calm when we connect with nature. Trees are nature's chemical factories. Through the process of photosynthesis, of course, they add oxygen to the air, but they also clean out the pollutants that are in the air. Trees absorb carbon dioxide, ground-level ozone, carbon monoxide, sulfur dioxide, and other greenhouse gases. When we breathe in the air of the forest, we're breathing enriched oxygen air, which improves our health in many ways, elevating our mood and decreasing our stress. In addition to providing us with numerous health and physical well-being, psychological benefits, trees show us how to thrive throughout life. Trees are grounded deeply in the earth, receiving the energy of the sunlight and converting it into food in abundance, which nourishes not only themselves, but other living creatures as well. Trees are absolutely vital to life on this planet. Unlike we humans, trees do not hoard their resources. They freely share their resources with insects, birds, animals, and humans, knowing that these resources are not limited in any way, trusting that there will always be more. Jesus realized the value of using nature as a teaching object, and he used nature to impart spiritual truths to his disciples. In Matthew 6, Jesus instructs his disciples, "Can any one of you, by worrying, add a single hour to your life? And why do you worry about clothes? See how the flowers of the field grow. They do not labor or spin. Yet I tell you that not even Solomon, in all his splendor, was dressed like one of these. If that is how God clothes the grass of the field, which is here today and tomorrow is thrown into the fire, will he not much more clothe you, you of little faith?" This reminds me of the first principle of unity. We read there that there is only one presence and one power active in the universe and in my life, God the Good. If this is true, then we can follow the example of trees and share our unlimited abundance of resources freely. Trees also set a beautiful example of gracefully weathering the seasons of our lives, including times of high winds, heavy rains, freezes, extreme temperature, and drought. The trees weather the difficult times by letting go. Very counterintuitive. When the winds come, they sway with them. They don't resist. When times of scarcity approach each year as the days shorten and the temperatures start to drop, they let go of what's no longer serving them, knowing that the need will be provided when it is needed again. Like the trees, we too can ground ourselves, extending our roots and deepening our foundation to help us journey through the storms of our own lives with greater patience and with ease. We can let go and trust that the resources we need will be provided when we need them. We are always in the stark and beautiful moment of letting go of thoughts, letting go of expectations, letting go of perceived hurts. And all this letting go sets us free to experience a deeper and more expansive experience of ourselves. Letting go is a continual process that invites us to affirm the truth of our being and to trust the unfolding of our journey. We trust the movement of spirit that creates the masterpiece that is you and me. Like the trees, graceful and humble, we can bow to the cycles of letting go, of death, and of rebirth that visit us through our entire lifetime. Trees also teach us how to survive in times of great change, like the times we're facing today. For many years, scientists thought trees competed to survive in a forest. This led to the practice of clear cutting, marking old-growth trees and unwanted species like the alders, the birches, and the aspens to be cut down, and then replacing those clear cuts with fast-growing firs and pines. It was believed that removing competitors would strengthen the forest. However, the results of these monocultures were surprising. Disease spread through these engineered forests at an alarming rate. Why was removing the competitors making the firs and the pines sick? Suzanne Simard, a Canadian forest ecologist, set to work at understanding this phenomenon. And what she discovered has implications for solving one of our biggest problems today, climate change. It was known for some time that trees communicate with each other through what scientists have named the wood wide web. Yes, trees can instant message one another by sending chemical and electrical signals that travel along mycorrhizal fungi living in and around their roots. These fungi branch out in a dense network of straw-like fibers. Fungi and trees form a symbiotic relationship, each species working with the other to survive. The fungi break down rocks and soil into nutrients, while their tiny tubes help the host tree absorb the nutrients along with more water. In exchange, the tree shares up to a third of the food it makes with the fungi. While scientists realized that trees could communicate with other trees at quite a distance due to the density of the mycorrhizal fungal network, it was believed that trees communicated only with trees of the same type. Suzanne Simard made the important and controversial discovery that trees do not compete to survive. Trees survive by helping one another, even species different from themselves. It turns out that the birch trees that had been clear-cut from the monocultural forests actually produced enough food not only for themselves, they shared the food with the young firs as they grew. In addition to sharing food, the birches also produced an antibiotic-producing bacteria that they shared with the fir trees that were diseased. It turns out that the price of clear-cutting, removing the birches from the forest, actually jeopardized the fir survival. Trees depend on diversity in order to survive. Food is not the only resource shared through the wood wide web. Information is also shared. When aphids or other insects gorge on an oak's leaves, the tree sends electrical signals through the fungal partners to warn neighboring trees. When other oaks receive the distress call, they all pump a bitter-tasting chemical called tannin into their leaves to ward off the insects. So trees not only model ways of being in our daily life, living from grounded presence, rooted in our divine resource, cooperating with the flow of life by letting go, allowing death and birth to recur in our lives. Trees also teach us how to survive on this planet. As Suzanne Simard has discovered, uniform forests can fall victim to massive, widespread death, especially in a changing climate. Trees depend on diversity to thrive and create an ecosystem that helps multiple species of wildlife to thrive by providing food and homes. Keeping our forests healthy also combats rising greenhouse gases. It turns out that trees are our planet's best defense against climate change. While increased technology has provided us with many conveniences in our lives, it has a dark side. With the increased autonomy technology provides, most of us have forgotten that we are connected to others and to nature, that we are one. It's a matter of faith, really, to trust and respect the relationships that make up the complexity of nature. In my last talk, I shared that I have an altar on my back deck that overlooks a tree-filled space along with a little stream behind my house. It is the one way that I practice Shinrin Yoku, forest bathing. I have learned much from sitting with these trees season after season, watching the trees stand tall, unapologetically owning their beauty and majesty. They are a constant reminder that I too am a creation of God, imbued with the wisdom of my ancestors, deeply rooted in the rich resources of my own divine essence, lacking nothing. I'm inspired to stand tall and graceful, cooperating with the flow of my life. And I'm reminded that I'm not alone on this journey, since I am connected to all living beings in a complex, interdependent, symbiotic relationship. I invite you to practice Shinrin Yoku as we enter the spring season of our yearly cycle. May you too be blessed with the wisdom of trees. Let's close in a word of prayer. With grateful hearts, we allow ourselves to rest in the web of all life, knowing that we are connected to all living beings on this planet in a complex, interdependent cycle of life. We give thanks to the source of all good that dwells among us and in each one of us. As we move through this day, through this week, may we be inspired and comforted by the natural gifts that are available to us in every moment. May we be aware of the enormous interdependent network of life of which we are but a small part. We are grateful for the intelligent design of our environment, and so it is. Amen.
Thank you so much for that message. I loved it. I love trees. I love being outside. This tune is from South Pacific, 1958, also by Rodgers and Hammerstein. Pretty thing entitled Younger Than Springtime. Younger than springtime are you, softer than starlight are you, warmer than wings of June are the gentle lips you gave me, gayer than laughter are you, sweeter than music are you, angel than lover, heaven and earth are you to me. And when your youth and joy invade my arms and fill my heart as they do, younger than springtime am I, gayer than laughter am I, angel than lover, heaven and earth am I with you. And when your youth and joy invade my heart